So I'm so excited to be talking to you, Dr. Scott Walker, today, who is the founder of Neuro-Emotional Technique, a quite scientifically validated mind-body technique to reduce stress. So welcome, Dr. Scott, and thank you so much for your time today. And firstly, I'd like to just talk to you about NET and how NET evolved and how you got into it and the whole journey. And I'd like to talk to you about research and what your biggest dream for NET is, and going forward.
My
so
biggest
maybe
what?
your
Dream.
biggest dream going forward.
Yeah, thanks.
But
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on with you because my wife and I first came to Australia and were teaching NET in about 1990, and that was only a couple of years after we first formally started teaching it. And my wife said, "Let's go to Australia," and I go, "There's a whole million places on the planet to go." She said, "Let's go to Australia." I said, "Okay." And then it rang a bell with me because my roommate in college was named George Coronius, and he was from Dubbo. And so I got acquainted with the Aussie culture early on before I ever got there. And when I came down, I just found the country just so warm and fascinating, and I love it. And I love the people, and I love the culture. It's absolutely fantastic. So it's nice to basically be back. And thank you for having me. To answer your question about NET, I was a practitioner, so on the corner, taking care of my people. And for me, chiropractic was a dream. It was a dream to help people and to help them with simple methods of spinal manipulation and diet and just taking care of them. And the whole philosophy of it seemed so right to me. But I had to admit to myself that my results weren't what my dream was. And I thought, what's wrong here? Well, I get one patient come in, nice person, certain, let's say she's 33 years old, maybe a female, maybe a male, but female. And I would do my regular adjustments and so forth on her. And then what would happen is she would get well and she was just delighted. But then the next week I would get somebody a similar age, worked in a similar occupation, similar part of town, similar ethnicity, and she wouldn't get the results. And I just, what is going on here? And of course, finally I got common sense told me that they were different emotionally. They have different emotions and different dramas in their life. And so I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do about that? And I thought, well, what do you do with emotional problems? You refer them out to a psychologist, right? And so I'd refer them out to a psychologist, and the psychologist would tell them, okay, you need to come in once a week for 2 years. Well, I had just got done telling them I thought we could deliver the case here within weeks. And now, like the first patient would get well in days or weeks. And then the second patient, it was just such an unsatisfactory dilemma I was in, because this was my dream. My dream was helping people. And so I finally figured out that it was emotional. And because I had been frustrated for years not delivering the goods, I had taken every seminar under the sun. I've probably taken more seminars than any person I know. Different kinds of seminars, nutrition seminars, homeopathy seminars, acupuncture seminars, chiropractic seminars, of course, and muscle testing and applied kinesiology and SOT, and the list goes on and on of all the different techniques I had. But so I had quite a background, and then I had a breakthrough, and all the stuff that I had learned suddenly melded, it dovetailed, and it made sense to me. And I was a little bit shocked at the good results I was getting. To tell you the truth, I thought, well, this doesn't just work. This works pretty good. You know? So some of my patients were practicing chiropractors at the time, and they asked me to teach them. And I thought, okay, let's get together on Saturday, and I'll show you what I'm doing, and then that's fine. I wasn't going to have a career of teaching. I was going to just show the local chiropractors how to do this, and that was going to be it. And
so did the steps of NET, like the process, did that fall into place pretty quickly?
Did what fall into place pretty quickly?
Like the whole steps through NET. when it all kind of came together, did you kind of figure out quite quickly how to actually go through the NET process, or what is now the NET process?
Yeah, that's the trouble. There was no process.
Yeah, so you just stumbled around and it kind of all just came together. It was working.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
There was a chiropractor by the name of Jennifer LaMonica out of New York, and she, at one of the seminars I went to, she said that sometimes she'd have her patients think of the injury they had when they injured themselves, and so that stuck with me. And then I knew a lot about acupuncture and so forth, and so I thought, well, what if I have the patient think of the trauma that they had, that they fell off a bicycle, their wife left them, their dog died, whatever happened. What if I had them do that, and then I stimulated different acupuncture points, and which was really spine related points, and what if I did this and I did that and I did the other thing, and that's what I had in mind, and that worked very well. In fact, the first patient that ever got NET was the wife of a chiropractor that was working in my office, and he was off somewhere, and his wife got in an accident that day, and so she called into the office and said, "Hey, can you get Lynn in?" And I said, "Okay." And what happened? "Well, I was in an accident." "Okay, well, got her in before the patient started," and she came in, and I said, "Well, what happened?" And she says, "Well, I was in this accident." And she says, my neck is really hurting me. And I thought, oh, but I was really interested in the emotional aspect of it. And I said, "Well, Lynn, when you had the accident, did you have fear?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh, good, because now now I could trust my hypothesis, you see." And so I did this NET thing on her, which, as you know very well, Sarah, is a lot of the adjusting that we do with NET is in the dorsal spine, the lower, below the shoulder blades. And so I said, "Well, I want you to remember the fear that you had at the time that you were in the accident." And she said, "Okay." And I said, "Just think about that while I hold this kidney reflex, which is the associated meridian organ with fear."
Yeah.
And then I adjusted her dorsal spine between the shoulder blades. And I said, "Now, how does that feel?" Meaning, I'm still on one track and I'm trying to get rid of the fear. And I said, "So how does that feel?" And she moved her head around to right and left and turned it up and down and back and forth and wagged it around. She says, "Well, that feels a lot better." Meaning her neck felt a lot better. And then I was embarrassed because I realized that I was trying to get rid of the emotion of fear. And she was, of course, very rightly interested in getting her pain fixed, you see, but she got both fixed. And I said, I was embarrassed. And so I said, good. And how about the fear part of the accident now?" "Well," she said, "that's gone too." And I said, "Okay, great." We recovered, and well, it's a long story. From anyhow, that was the first NET patient. And see, here, the good part about that particular one was, I don't think there was any placebo, because any chiropractic wife, and I've got one, but any chiropractic wife knows, or any chiropractic husband of a chiropractor knows, that in order to fix neck pain, you do not adjust the dorsal spine. You do not adjust between the shoulder blades. That's not going to do it. Well, when you're doing the NET protocol, it does do it. And that's actually the reason. In fact, as you know, most of those kinds of things we can fix very easily, and you don't need to have NET done. You just don't. But sometimes chronic recurring vertebral subluxations and chronic problems that are caused by them need to be addressed emotionally. And once you address the emotional stress, then that's alleviated. And once that's alleviated, then the vertebra that we've been adjusting now stay where they're supposed to be, because the muscles are balanced, because the emotions are balanced. So it all comes back to that. And then we started getting the great results. That's the reason these chiropractors wanted me to teach them, because they wanted to go help people too. We're all healthcare professionals are frustrated because we have this innate gene. We want to help people. And when it works, it works. And when it doesn't work, it's a little frustrating. I know you can relate to that. So.
Absolutely. And just for people that aren't familiar with NET, because the audience is like far-reaching. How would you define neuro-emotional technique?
Oh my goodness, those are the things we always do 20 years later. So NET is a methodology of applying various disciplines to addressing the emotional stress of the body. And we're fully keeping in mind that there are other stressors in the body besides emotions. There's physical stress, there's thermal stress, the stress of the fires that you had down there recently. All those kind of things add up, bacterial stress. And all these things are coming at the body all the time, and they all create a stress on the body. And the stress is cumulative. It's not like sand through an hourglass. You watch it go through it and you're done. No, the sand keeps going and fills up your bucket, it just keeps on coming. And so stress is cumulative. And then it's not just that we do have stress, an everyday stress, and we all know what that is, okay? But if that's not enough, we also have memories of things that have been traumatic in the past. And we get reminded of those traumatic memories all too often as we go through life, every day, every week, every month. We'll get something that will clue us in about, oh yeah, that, and we'll feel bad about it. And it stresses us, either consciously or non-consciously, it stresses us. And so this accumulated stress is the reason why people are not getting their health back. It's stress. If they have biochemical imbalance, they need nutrition, structural stress, emotional stress. They need to alleviate that stress piece by piece by piece, because it doesn't go away by itself. You have to keep working with it. So NET is very complicated in one way, very intricate. We've got manuals on it. I've been trying to write a book about it for 19 years, and I can't, because I'm just too much of a perfectionist, and it's too technical. But the simple answer is, it's a simple mind-body technique to alleviate stress.
Okay, good. That's pretty much what I say to people in the simple way. And lots of people do think that, stress is just emotional. So I'm all day saying, stress, but it can be emotional stress, or it can be chemical stress in your body, or it can be physical stress. So you've got to kind of work out where the stress is. And I'm also finding at this time with the lockdowns in Australia, like the reliving traumatic stuff from childhood in teenagers is particularly higher, or I'm seeing more of now with them being restricted. It's been really fascinating.
Well,
and they're totally unaware of it because of their age as well.
Well, they are here. We've got lockdown here too. The setting of this is April 7th, 2020, right? So here we are in the coronavirus, and the coronavirus will come and go, but we're still here to deal with stress of whatever form it takes. However, this is in a way, if you're a medical anthropologist, which is me, that's what I do. I study humankind's reactions to different factors out in the environment. But so in that way, it's good, because what we have here is a situation that has created great uncertainty. And so when people are looking, they don't know how long it's going to be, how long it's going to last. Am I going to get infected? Is my mother and father, are they going to die? Or am I going to die? Or what's my business? How is it going to go? I don't know where it is. So they are experiencing uncertainty about money, job, finances, career, everyone they've ever loved, everyone that's ever loved them, and themselves, their own their own soul. So here, all in one dollop, we've got the whole shebang. And so people look out and they think, well, when's this going to go away? And they watch the news, and it doesn't make it any better. Probably makes it worse. But here's what I'm coming to, Sarah, on this. They have faced uncertainty before. Maybe, unless they've been in combat or something like that, maybe they haven't experienced it to this extent. But they have experienced uncertainty. We all have. And sometimes in life, we've experienced uncertainty, and lo and behold, it passed. We got through it all. Everything's fine. But there are other times in life that we faced uncertainty and it didn't work out so well.
Mm.
Girlfriend didn't work out so well, or the marriage, or a job, or career opportunity. Some bad things have also happened to all of us in life. And so now they're looking out and they are seeing the uncertainty, and subconsciously and quickly, nanoseconds, it is waking up the memory cells of the limbic system. And it's not saying it explicitly like I'm going to characterize it, but it's basically doing this. Hey, you remember this? We've been up against this before. What's going to happen this time? It didn't work out so well a couple times. And so now, subconscious, this is all subconscious at this point, subconsciously people are now stressing over not just the current situation, but also other uncertainty situations that they've had in their life that are recorded in their memories and recorded in the physiology of their body. So NET is perfect for this. NET is perfect because the diagnostic phase of it takes us right back to where these traumatic traumas have happened to us. And then once we find that, and by the way, it's only the patient can find it. The practitioner can do what he or she can to facilitate it, but the patient will find it. Remember, oh, I forgot all about that. Oh my God. And then the practitioner can have the patient think about that while they hold some acupuncture points that are on the forehead and maybe some other points on the body. And then we do an adjusting procedure. There are a lot of methods for fixing it, but that's what happens. And then when we're done with that, the conditioned responses which took place at the original traumas in their life are now extinguished. They're still in memory, but without the physiological reaction that goes with them. So now what's happened now is we've unloaded some of the sand in that bucket. We've unloaded some of that stress, and the newscast and so forth is not going to be fun, but it's not going to be triggering things from our past also. So it makes it better, makes it easier on the patient. And usually people feel better right away, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to chat to you about, I might talk about it now actually. When I was pregnant with my first child, this was before I found NET, I don't really know how I knew that I needed to look for it, but I knew I wanted to have a natural birth. I was only 26 and I was looking for someone, and the only type of person I could think of was a psych, because they deal with emotions, someone to deal with the unconscious emotions. So when I was in labor, I didn't have a whole heap of stuff come up that I didn't expect. So I actively tried to find a psych that did that. And I did find someone, and it was I can't really remember the technique. I would say she probably used a technique like Psych K or something, if that was around like 17 years ago, I don't know. And then I moved to Sydney, and I was asking chiropractors around, like, do you know any psychs or anyone that does this type of work? And I can't remember who it was, but someone pointed me to Nick Kovacs. And so he would have been one of those first ones that you guys taught, I would have thought, if it was sort of that sort of time. And, we became very close, and I referred pretty much all my patients to him who I knew had emotional things. Mm-hmm. And then it got to a point where he was too full. So I was like, okay, fine. I think I've got to do this as well. So that's how I kind of fell into NET. I knew there was this missing thing, with AK, we could work out some biochemistry stuff. We could work on structure really well, but there was like this whole piece that was missing. So to find NET was just like such a beautiful piece to my puzzle that just made so much sense.
Well, that's fascinating. My experience, most people do not have a sense that there is something in their history that is troublesome and that is not going to help the labor and at the time of birth. In other words, that's its own kind of stress. It's what they call eustress, or a good kind of stress, but stress is stress. And so you had that insight. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to be interfered with, and like nothing really came up. But I knew that I didn't want a surprise, because I knew it would be really stressful. I knew it would be really hard, and I thought, if there's anything else under there as well, I don't want that coming up at the same time as well.
Very prudent of you.
Huh?
Very prudent of you.
So yeah, I
So,
do actually work with a lot of pregnant women now, and I do say that, you know, like labor is the time that things will come up. So that is the time that you want to be making sure that you're pretty clear when you're going into that.
well, I think that, you know, I did go to your website to, I mean, we've met before and talked, and we've had
Yeah.
a relationship over the years, but I've never gone to your website, never looked at it. So I went there and I noticed that you do a lot with women, and uh, that's wonderful and fascinating, because there's no way that a man can understand birth. There's no, it just doesn't happen, you know. And if a woman can go to a woman who has actually given birth, uh, that means a lot. You know, that's God bless you for being there. You know, I mean, I've taken care of a lot of pregnant women in my life, and it's been okay. But I'll tell you one thing: NET is the best NET practitioners are women. They are, because they're more intuitive and they're more feeling, and there are a lot of good male practitioners that do NET. But I have to, and I'm one of them, by golly. But I got to tip my hat to the female practitioners. They have a way of just going right in there and getting to what needs to be done.
Yeah, I know some great female practitioners. I know some great male practitioners, but yeah, NET is just, it's the bomb. It's pretty amazing. So let's talk about some research. So, you know, it's the one foundation, isn't it, that does or conducts most of the research? How does that kind of work?
Well, about 5 years after I developed NET, then I started, you know, people were calling me, and I got invitations to go and teach. And so I started going around and teach. And all of a sudden I went, what am I doing? This technique, actually, to tell you the truth, I think, you know, NET looks flaky. If you viewed from the outside, there, you know, it looks like, well, what's he doing? There's nothing happening. But if you're the patient, you know something's happening, because all the machinery, all the work, all the pistons firing, everything's happening on the inside of the skin of the patient, okay? But viewed from the outside, it doesn't look like it's very much, doesn't look like it would do too much. So I knew that it was going to be criticized by, like all things, people don't understand. And so then I thought, we've got to get some science here. Science is the only thing that's going to keep everybody settled. And so we started the foundation, and we got some great research. In fact, one of the early research papers was done by the sister of Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson did the first research paper, and then his sister did one on low back pain and pregnancy. And that was one of our first ones. But since then, we've done all kinds of things. Ovary problems, thyroid. We've done research. These are case histories. They're not double-blinded, random trials, but back pain to phobias to what have you. Because you see, one thing about it, and you know this, Sarah, but I'm just saying it for whoever might be listening. Emotions impact everybody's health, and emotions impact every kind of practitioner's patients. So emotions aren't just not for chiropractic patients. Emotions take their toll, whether you're a dentist, a general practitioner, an acupuncturist, what have you. Because you talk to any seasoned practitioner and ask them, do emotions impact the health of your patients? And they'll say yes. And if you say, well, what do you know to do about it? They'll say, well, I don't know, just refer them to the psych or whatever they do. But the research that we have at the one now, you know, one thing, it's been the best researcher, the most prodigious researcher that we have is from Sydney. And that's Peter Bablis. And Peter Bablis, he did a knockout study in about 2008. He got his PhD from Macquarie, and he did a study on low back pain. Well, chiropractors are famous for being able to fix low back pain, and the profession is very good at it, except when it's not. And there are some very chronic low back cases that are out there. And so okay, look, he liked NYT, and he said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to get these chronic low back cases, and we're going to bring them in here. And not only we're going to do NYT on the low back. When I say low back, when we do it on the low back, we do it about the low back. We do emotions, which are up between the shoulder blades again. It's not anything to do with the low back. But he said, not only are we going to do that, because he's quite an eclectic practitioner, he said, we're also going to do all the regular orthopedic tests, the fill in the blank test, the subjective test, and we're also going to do the blood test. What kind of blood test? Oh, well, we're going to check all the cytokines. We're going to check interleukin-1 and interleukin-6 and interleukin-10 and C-reactive protein, tumor necrosis factor, all kinds of blood work. And so now we're going to see if NYT helps the low back pain, which is pretty physical, you'll agree. And then all these blood markers, they all improve too. So it's a mind body. You can't help one without the other. So we're helping through emotions, we're helping low back pain, but we're also helping the cytokines. And there is, if people go to the One Research Foundation and under research, there is now a synopsis there of Dr. Bablis's findings. The original findings is in a document about 300 or 400 words long, okay? I read it, and no one's gonna read that. Just no one's gonna read it. So the One Research Foundation got Anthony Rosner as a PhD out of near Boston, United States, and he went through those 300 or 400 pages and crunched it all down into a synopsis that anyone can read. And there's graphs there about the blood markers and also the low back pain questionnaires and all that kind of stuff. So everybody understands, oh, you mean that you can help our blood chemistry and a low back at the same time? And then you dovetail that one with another study that the One Research Foundation did. Thank you very much for all those people that donated. But is one that Dr. Monty headed up, and that was functional MRIs. What we did was we took people, and a lot of them were women too, that had a cancer diagnosis, say breast cancer as an example. And that, for some people, is very traumatic to have a diagnosis of cancer. It's akin to PTSD. And everybody understands it. We don't call it PTSD because it doesn't exactly fit, but psychologists, psychiatrists alike, we understand that it's very much akin to it. And so even when you get the diagnosis, can be traumatic. Oh my God, I know, because I went and interviewed these women and some guys too after the treatment, and I wanted to find out what was going on with them. But anyhow, what we did is we put them into a functional MRI. We had them relive in their memory these traumatic memories of when the doctor said you have this, or you said this, and you now got that, and this is what's going to happen. Well, when the women think about that, it lights up the whole area around the hippocampus, and which is your part of your limbic system, which is generally thought of to be the center of emotions. It's not necessarily true, but that's what it's famous for. And when the people would think about that area of their brain would, what we call light up. It would light up, that all the, holy cow, what's going on here? Because there's a lot of activity, and the blood's carrying glucose in there, and the glucose is burning up, and that's what shows up on the functional MRI. So this part of their brain was absolutely, it's very, very clear that there was excess activity in that area of the brain. And you see, that's where the pituitary is. And so the pituitary, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis is the stress chain, which releases all those hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and so on. But anyhow, then we did NYT on them. There was one practitioner did NYT on these people, all these people. I think we saw them an average of about 3 to 5 times. And if I remember it right, and then we would do the same thing again. We'd say, okay, now let's go back and let's remember that traumatic thing that happened, the same one that you had before. In fact, they made a recording so that we would have the exact same stimuli to the person. And then they would listen to themselves talk about the traumatic thing that happened to them, their cancer diagnosis. And then they would go in and get the functional MRI again. And this time it's completely clear, completely, I mean, anyone can see the difference in that. Now, you know, if you have questionnaires and blood markers and things like that, you know, it's a little abstract, but when you can see this functional MRI and the changes that occurred, then, oh, so now coupled with what I just said about the low back study and the chemistry, the interleukins and so forth, all part of the immune system. And then you have the functional MRI where the brain is actually changed and the people are reporting feeling better. This is a long way between the body and the mind, the low back body to the very seemingly etherical emotions that we have in those memories. So basically, because emotions are so pervasive in the body, and because we have these memories, and because we're human, everyone is carrying around this stress, carrying around this. They don't have to, but they are. They're carrying around emotional stress, and being triggered by events such as the fires and the coronavirus, and if that's not enough, if somebody's listening to this 10 years from now, there's something else, I'm sure, out there, because that's the way history is, right? Yeah. But people don't have to carry all the old stuff with them. The new stuff is plenty. So yeah. The One Foundation is made up of patients and practitioners. And so if anybody is interested in helping that kind of cause, most of it's been funded by practitioners like yourself and myself, but we have had private parties donate to this because they can see the value of it, because usually our patients are people that have already tried medicines, drugs, and surgery, and sometimes that helps and sometimes it doesn't. And so people that have not been helped by traditional medicine are very interested in helping us get this research done. It's our net effect. It's One Foundation, ONE, our net effect, and it's all of us, patients and practitioners, working together.
Yeah, it's an amazing foundation and so important. Like the science behind it is just so important. So that's.
Oh, it is. It kept us from, and like I said on the outset, if you look at NET from the outside, you go, what? What's that? How can that possibly work? If you need something, you need an operation or something dramatic to make it. It doesn't have to be hard to be good. It doesn't have to be hard to be good.
Yeah. And so as how long's NET been around for? It must be close to 30 years now, is it?
It's over 19, we started teaching formally. I was developing it for years before I started formally teaching it, but we formally started teaching it in 1988. So this is 2020. So this is 32 years or so.
Wow. Yeah.
My math isn't so good anymore.
Yeah, neither's mine. So in the 30, pardon?
We've been around.
Yeah. In the 32 years plus of NET being developed, obviously there's changes. I mean, even when I do, seminars now, there's little nuances or, like extra little techniques or different ways to look at things, which is awesome. And so if this continues, like as it continues to develop and impact people, what's your greatest dream for NET?
Well, we've gone past my greatest dream for NET.
What do you mean? Right. You couldn't even see it as it is now.
Wait. Yeah. But the way that I decided to do life was, you know what? I'll take a step out there any day. And if I get run over, okay, well, I learned something. But you know what? I keep on taking a step and it just keeps on leading deeper and deeper and more and more. And sometimes I wake up and scare myself about what I'm about to do. And we have not seen the end of NET. Everything that we've thrown at it, every kind of condition we've thrown at it, we've had tremendous results. And so we don't know where it ends at all. Really, we don't. And actually, we had once, it's a long story, but we got results of a sort back on epigenetics and the genome. And we've seen changes in genome, but the data got corrupted, and so we've got to go back and do it again. And that's all right. That happens to us. One time we had blood work and it was just absolutely amazing. And we sent it down to Baylor in Texas to get it done, and it wasn't packed properly in the ice, and the blood went bad, and so we couldn't establish it on a great basis. But that things like that happen in life, and that's okay. But we've got to go do those things and get them up. I don't think there's an end to it, to tell you the truth, Sarah. I don't. Emotions and the mind, that's what makes people so much different than animals. I mean, animals have emotions, but but mankind is moved by their emotions. Mankind is such a special creation, and because we have the sensitive mind and the sensitive nervous system, we can do great things. We can go to the moon and back. We can do all kinds of things, and we can also get ourselves in big trouble. So it's a knife that cuts both ways. And because our mind is so sensitive to our environment and the things that happen in our environment, we need to have some sort of 21st century stress relief, and that's what NET is.
Yeah, I would love to see it as something that everyone knows about. You know, everyone knows about, everyone has access to, so it just becomes a normal therapy that people can go get.
Well, you know, now that you say that, that is a dream I have too. That is a dream that I also share, and I haven't achieved it yet. To that end, if your audience wanted to, I just got word this week that we have a documentary called Stressed, of all names, Stressed. And it has been in some website that they kind of got it from us, and it was part of their content. But I understand it's going to be out on YouTube where everybody can access it. And so maybe by the time somebody listens to this, maybe it'll be available out there. But anyhow, it's called Stressed, and it's Neuro-Emotional Technique. And it tells some of the inside story and some of the inside physiology of what NET is all about. I think that's the way it's going to be. I think that people are going to refer each other into NET practitioners. I think it's going to become more popular. I think that with modern media, people are smart enough to understand that drugs and surgery are not always the answer. That people, more and more, not NET papers, but more and more papers on the mind-body are coming out, so people can see the relationship between the mind and the body. So a lot of people inside and outside of the One Foundation are working on this. And by the time we get 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back to how traditional medicine is practiced, and they're going to just shake their head, because they're going to see that people, I was thinking about this morning, see, the traditional medicine has a very fast, quick thing fix for symptoms. Very good. Excellent. And so people are used to getting relief for their symptoms. They may not last, but they're used to getting relief for their symptoms rather quickly, and actually without any discipline. You just show up and they'll give you the medication, that's it. On the other hand, we have natural approaches, which you actually have to participate in. Like NET is something, you can't do NET without a patient. You just can't, and they can't just show up on a heap on your doorstep. They actually have to work with their memory and think about things that have happened to them. And, you know, I mean, it's not belaboring them, you know, but they have to work at it a little bit. And then there's discipline about what we eat and what we drink and all those kind of things. So if people can take a little bit of responsibility and wanting to get their health back instead of just symptomatic relief, NET is, it's a good vehicle, as you know. How long have you been practicing NET? I didn't look in my records.
Well, I was certified in 2010, so it's 10 years post-certification. And then I can't remember exactly, probably like 2-3 years before that, would have done my first NET seminar. Yeah.
Well, you're interviewing me, but let me ask you a question. So what, I'm the anthropologist, remember? Medical anthropologist. So what did you think when you started implementing NET into your practice? What was happening?
Well, remember, I came from the background where I knew that I was missing something, and I'd found Nick, and I'd had NET. I was going through a divorce, so I had NET got me through the divorce. And So I had it from that experience, and then I kind of knew what it was going to do. I think it actually, part of it, it really helps people take responsibility. It helps people understand that what their past has influenced their present, and not necessarily bad or good, it just is. Mm-hmm. And that they can actually do something about it, apart from, you know, if they have a sore neck that's just been really jammed up for a long time, and then you do NET and they feel relieved. My most amazing thing, I mean, it was, you know, it's not scientifically validated, but my most amazing experience that I had was about 4 years ago. A lady came in, new patient, came in. She had lower abdominal separation after having 3 kids, and she had this correlating kind of mid-lumbar instability. And anyway, so I just was going through my assessment, and she put her fingers in this separation. It was quite a big separation, you know, like above a belly button was quite tight, below a belly button was quite separated. And then I just checked if there was an emotional component, and there was. And the next session we did it again, we checked it, and I did NET on it, and I felt it. And I was just like, that's weird. Excuse me, children. Can you go out, please? I'm just talking. And I felt it, and it was like, that's weird. And it literally felt like the seams had gone. And I said, can you just feel this? It feels different to me. Can you feel this? And she just went, oh my God. It was like it zipped up.
Was it a diastasis rectus type situation?
Yeah, it was like at least kind of 2 fingers into it. Like that's the most amazing kind of instant.
I've never heard of that
thing I've ever experienced with NET. So that was quite mind blowing. So yeah, like so many different findings. Like you said, it's like it's so far reaching because it's so relevant in every single thing. The whole genome stuff I'm finding really fascinating. So, you know, to be able to have an effect on that would be quite incredible with NET as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we don't know where the end is. We can't see the end, and that's kind of exciting. And we have a lot of people that, practitioners mostly, but also lay people that have joined the One Research Foundation. Mm. And we have programs, and we do some service things, like we came down to Christchurch 2008 when the big earthquake was, when 2001 with 911 in the United States, and now we're trying to reach out through some educational programs with coronavirus. I don't know if you've been notified about it or not, but we're doing a couple programs with mind practitioners and body practitioners. We're trying to share information as fast as we can to help the practitioners kind of get a better bead, because all the patients are coming in now with increased stress.
And also all those emergency workers, imagine like the state of them after all this is over as well. All those doctors and nurses and that have been on the front line and dealing with, you know, such an intense situation.
Yeah, the front first responders, very interesting. And we have all the old people that are vulnerable. So they're, I'm in that group. So everybody's watching their life go in front of them, and all uniquely stressful, stressful time. When World War II, the diggers, is that what you call the Aussie soldiers, the diggers, and the GIs from the United States, we all left home and went overseas to fight in that crisis. And now we've got this coronavirus crisis, and everybody's staying home.
Probably a good time to finish it off.
Okay.
So I want you to, if you want to, share just the website for NET and One Foundation, so people can find what they need to find.
Neuroemotional Technique website is net mind body, all one word, net, NET, mind body.com, netmindbody.com. and that's neuroemotional technique. A lot of information on the technique there, and training, and also to find a practitioner. If somebody's going to be listening to this and they're going to have their mother is going to be up in Toowoomba or Northern Territory or something, and they can go on the website and find a practitioner. Or in Australia, we have a number that they can call to find practitioners wherever they can. And then the other website is the onefoundation.org, onefoundation.org, O-N-E foundation.org. There's lots of information there too. They'll have enough for a while.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful talking to you.